Half a day. I'm Reyes. The following is a selection of illustrations I've done for 5 children's books. 3 of them were written, illustrated, and published by me, and the other 2 were written by others and illustrated by me. All are about Guam in one way or another. This was the first of what I affectionately call my Laddie People books. Laddie stones are unique to the Marianas Islands and are a symbol of Chamorro identity and strength. Each of the books is a little humanities lessons with story, cultural notes, and language learning activities. I like the story of the boy who leaped to Rhoda because it's one of the few Chamorro stories that have not been influenced by outside cultures. The story is about an extraordinary little boy who doesn't know his own strength, and at first his dad, Masala, is very proud of his son's abilities. But as time goes on, both parents begin to show some concerns. As with most cultural stories, they function as teaching tools, laying out behavioral expectations. One of the lessons is the concept of shame. Chamorros are expected to be humble and not brag about themselves. But Metgut is not a bragger. He just simply has talents that others in his community do not. The idea of juggling boulders is presented here as an amusement and tips the scales in the mind of Masala, who becomes very alarmed at the strength of his son. When Masala runs home to warn his wife Nana of Metgut's beyond control strength, his concerns are met with an admonishment that Masala should accept his son for who he is. But when Metgut pulls up a coconut tree by the roots just to find his crab friend, Masala pretty much loses it and insists that Metgut leave. Mom is crying in the background and seems helpless to stop what is happening to her son. And so the story goes that Metgut ran all the way to the northernmost tip of the island, took one giant leap, and landed in Rhoda. It is said that his leap was so powerful that the footprint of Metgut can still be found in the stone. As it happens, Metgut is also known as Taga, a chief who really was very strong and really was exiled to Rhoda by his family. Another one of my Laddie People books is Serena, arguably the most loved story of the island, though likely borrowed from the Spanish culture. The word Serena is not found in the original Chamorro language, but refers to mermaid in the Spanish culture. The importance of the Chamorro version of the Serena story is the relationship of the godmother and the mother with respect to the raising of a child and representing the matrilineal structure of Chamorro culture. The godmother is responsible for spiritual development of the child. This story tells of a young girl who loves the sea and has many sea creatures as friends. One day, her mother sends her on an important errand to get coal from a neighboring barrio to fuel the household fire. Serena has every intention of doing as she is told. But along the way, she's distracted by daydreams of the sea and her sea creature friends. And before she knows what has happened, she is happily swimming with her friends. As it gets later and later, Serena's mom becomes very worried and goes to the godmother for help. They make the trip to the river to see if they can find Serena. As they arrive, Serena is just coming to shore, and the mom is so relieved. But then all her concern turns to rage, and she tells Serena that she may as well live as a fish if all she can do is swim all day. The godmother knows that one must be careful about what you say or ask for because once it's said, you can't take it back. So in the story, the godmother attempts to stop the mother's curse. Unfortunately, this action comes a bit too late, and Serena is now half human and half fish. Initially, one may think the lesson of this story may be for the child to do as they're told or face dire consequences. But it's also a cautionary tale for parents on the impact their words may have in the formulation of a child's self-concept. The third of my Laddie People books is The Tale of Two Lovers, which is also heavily influenced by Spanish culture and is a local version of a Romeo and Juliet tale. Guam's Two Lovers Point is a favorite location for tourists. In this story, a young girl I named Atisa is coming to age for marriage, and local boys are interested in getting to know her. But this is not a typical Chamorro family, as the father in this story is a high-ranking officer in the Spanish army, and he makes the decision that his daughter will marry a young officer in the army. The ancient Chamorro custom for marriage involves all parties, and the young couple have conceivably already met, love each other, and go to their families, who will determine if the match is good and make the arrangements. So to have an imposed marriage is outside cultural norms and would have been a source of conflict. So Atisa is very sad about her father's decision and decides to go for a walk. Along the way, she runs into Aktasi, the boy she loves, and naturally wants to be with him rather than the young officer her father has chosen for her. She goes home and tells her dad she does not want to marry the officer. The mother is shown in the background as unable to defend her daughter, which alludes to the cultural shift taking place. And as with Romeo and Juliet, Atisa and Aktasi make arrangements to meet in secret. They make plans to move to another village far away from her father and his demands. But the father sends his soldiers to retrieve his daughter, and they run. In my version of the story, the young lovers are running at sunset and try to find a place to hide in the brush, but they slip and fall off the edge of the cliff. I felt it important for a children's book not to present a story in which two young people have a desperate plan for suicide. Mother Tree is a children's book about the last remaining Hudson Lagu or Cereanthus nelsoni tree on Guam. It was written by Olympia Terrell and published by Tagini Books, University of Guam Press. The intention of this book is to bring awareness to the diminishing elements of nature that occur because of human actions. This painting introduces the two main characters, Atisa the tree and Gwinifi the bat, or Finihi in Chamorro. This is an illustration of the pink fluffy flowers of the Hudson Lagu and how the Finihi drank the nectar of the flowers. In their discussion, the tree reveals that she is the last of her kind on Guam, and the bat tells the tree that she plans to fly to Rota that day, where there are plenty Hudson Lagu trees. This picture shows three major predators of the Hudson Lagu seedlings. Deer and pigs are invasive species on Guam, introduced by other cultures. They are now out of control and are regularly hunted by locals. The other predator is a type of scale that kills the trees by eating the young shoots. And here we are introduced to Mamaisa, a coconut crab who comes looking for dead animals such as lizards to eat. Atisa warns Mamaisa that there may be snakes in her branches, but Mamaisa explains that humans are the main predators of coconut crabs. This illustration shows the mother tree is very upset as she watches a deer eating her babies, the tender seedlings. In this painting, Gwinifi calls to Atisa to help her hide from potential hunters, and Atisa stretches out her branch to take Gwinifi in. Atisa calls upon the spirits of the land, the Tautomona, to help her ward off any potential hunters by sending wind and torrential rain. After the storm passes, it's nearly sunrise and time for Gwinifi to go to sleep. This illustration shows her preparing for her nap. And the final illustration is a chance for Atisa to dream about the natural balance of life and the hope that new seedlings will sprout and grow. Guam, Return of the Songs is a book for children meant to bring awareness to the devastating effects of the brown tree snake, another invasive species, on Guam's insects and animals. It is written by Elaine Powers, who has written numerous children's books, all based on science. Her books can be found on Amazon. The first painting intends to illustrate what a forest might have looked like before the brown tree snake arrived and decimated the bird population. This illustration indicates that the snakes arrived in a shipping container that had not been properly inspected. The prose associated with this painting talks about the snakes eating violence and how much they love to eat birds and bird eggs. Here we see the snakes thriving on Guam with a 10-foot-long mommy snake and all her hatchlings getting ready to go hunting. This piece shows the native species of lizards that have been decimated by the brown tree snake. And this one shows examples of invasive and fast-breeding lizards that arrived on Guam in the same manner as the snake, that are quickly replacing the others. Bees and butterflies have also been affected by the reduction of the lizards that keep the spiders in check. Guam is now overrun by the banana spider. Guam's only endemic mammals were 3 types of bats or finihi. The snake devastated 2 of them, and the larger finihi has been diminished not only by the snake, but also with a reduction of habitat. This is an illustration showing how snakes can be dangerous to humans who are not aware of their presence, and how snakes can interfere with daily living by knocking out the power. There have been measures taken to reduce the number of snakes, such as mice laced with acetaminophen or Tylenol and dropped into trees where the snakes hunt. The Tylenol interferes with snake blood proteins and causes coma and death. Programs also exist on Guam to breed birds in captivity, such as the coco or Guam rail and the sihek or kingfisher. They are slowly being reintroduced into the wild. And the story ends on a hopeful note that Guam will soon hear the bird songs in the wild. I hope you enjoyed this mini exhibit series. Look for more like this on my website, donleesregisart.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Don Lees Regis, or feel free to send me an email at donleesregis@gmail.com.